Hello and welcome to Beyond the Exposition, the podcast for the website of the very same name. We're the podcast that bloggers on the internet have dubbed the plot spoilers. We know what we do, it happens, it's merely a byproduct of our discussions. I am your host, Donnacha O'Brien. But before I introduce my ever-present, on-the-day co-host, I have to deal with an email from one of our listeners. Island Rick, he wants to know, did you ever manage to get Nick back from Italy after he absconded? You know, there's only one man who can answer this for sure. He's a man who I pay in honey like a cartoon bear. It's Nicko Marzano.
A good night to you, Donnacha. A very, very good night, Donnacha.
That's your intro?
Yeah.
Alright, you can't improve on perfection. Upon Nick's arrival back to the country a few weeks ago, I get a message on my phone which says, "We need to meet for business. Soon. For a business meeting." I said, fine, yes, of course, I'll always do business with you.
Quite scaring.
I said, fine, where'll it be? I'll show you, he said. So anyway, I followed Nick to the business meeting, which happened to take place on the edge of a cliff. What was that all about, Nick?
Were you scared?
I had worries that the only reason you returned to the country was on mafia orders to take care of me, maybe a little push.
Instead, I was just showing you a wonderful scenery.
Yeah, it was quite inspiring, really. Different. I never had a business meeting on the edge of a cliff before. You never think there's much money in them.
Did we reach the agreement that we were looking for?
Well, to be honest, Nick, the only thing I really learned from my encounter with the mafia was that I'd speak too fast.
Was no mafia. Yeah, you were misleading young girls around the hood.
That's normal.
With your Cork accent.
Hey, but I don't understand. Where's the problem? How can someone not comprehend the word cappuccino? There's no way you can say that too fast that no one understands what it is.
Maybe because she was embarrassed, by your presence. Your
superstar.
Yeah.
Monster. Or maybe the mafia hitman standing behind me. Getting back to the podcast, this little thing that we do here. This is a special podcast. It's a French podcast. It's dedicated to my neighbours, who I didn't really get to know because...
Are they French?
They were French, and that's the issue. And also, they didn't speak one word of English. But then I tried to speak French, and they corrected me. The guinea pigs got loose. We have guinea pigs downstairs, which our landlord shouldn't find out about.
He's listening now. He can throw you out from this apartment.
Well, in that case, they'll also have to fix the washing machine, sink, and the wood lice infestation downstairs.
Maybe they will keep you.
So I think we're even. The guinea pigs got out into the garden, and they're both boys. And we said, like, where are the guinea pigs? Have you seen the guinea pigs in French? And then they go... Is it a boy or a girl? We're going, what? And then they said, you made a mistake in how you said it.
C'est fantastique. That's fantastic.
Do I speak French? That's like the Italian, putting O at the end of everything.
Fantastico, yes.
It's fantastico in Italy?
Definitely.
And in Spain?
Fantastico.
What a diverse continent we occupy. The European Union bringing us all together when we don't really need to do it because we're all the same anyway.
Exactly.
The reason why this podcast is dedicated to my neighbours is because after that incident, we never really spoke much again. And then one night, under the cover of darkness, they up and left like bandits on the run, never to return again. I felt kind of guilty that they never gave me a chance. So I'm doing the decent thing and I'm offering up this podcast that usually deals with good films. Instead, it is going to be comprised entirely by French-ish films. So to kick things off, first film on Beyond the Exposition this week is not a French film, but it has a Frenchman in it. It's the new Ken Loach.
Eric Cantona starring.
Looking for Eric.
Really good, Ken. Really good.
We've also got a real French film, but it don't look like one. It's part of a new French money-injected Hollywood grunge style of blah.
Yeah, fake art house.
I don't think it would be art house in anyway.
Yeah, no, supported by solid...
by art house, I mean grey.
Mainstream productions.
We even forgot to mention the name of it. It's probably called Anything for Her and had a big old grey poster with a gun on it. And finally, in stuff we like, now you must like too, we have Jean-Pierre
Jeunet.
Jeunet. You're not quite sure, are you?
No, I'm just guessing.
I could make it more comfortable by just putting an O at the end of the word for you.
Let's stick with Junet.
It was Junet's debut at the time, his 1991 classic Delicatessen.
Quite a classic.
So without further delay, except for the jingle you're about to hear, as you say always, Nick, your line.
My line?
Here, yeah. Here, will I write it down?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay.
Say it.
Now?
Yeah.
Here we go.
I've put an extra O on to the end of it, if you realised when I wrote it down. So it's go O. To make it more Italian, easier for you. First up on Beyond the Exposition, we have a new film by Ken Loach. If you remember, Ken Loach is the man who turned brother against brother again, where I come from in Cork, with his film, was it The Wind That Shakes the Barley?
Absolutely, yes.
It made the fictional version of my mother so angry she stopped going to the cinema and she said never again.
Really?
Well, this is the fictional version of her I made up, to make her more interesting, so she can do anything. Even though she's probably only seen 2 films in 10 years, but out of those 2, it was the worst of them.
Where was the issue? I mean, because I remember it few times I heard Irish people quite discussing on the division between the 2 groups, how they were split, that they didn't agree.
Yes, but it wasn't split regionally, it was just split brother against brother. So if there was an uneven amount of brothers in a family, the larger side would probably win.
Really?
Yeah, but in Wind That Shakes the Barley, 2 brothers, split down the middle, fair fight. It's when it's like that the problem lasts from generation to generation. Now, my mother wasn't born in that time, but she still talks about it a lot.
Anyway, Uncle Ken always...
She even married an opposition man.
Really?
Nope, fictitious.
Fantastic. Before the film went out, anyway.
Oh yeah, her bags were packed when she saw the film. She said, "Oh, I can't believe what he did to my people." I go, "They're my people too. It was the same family." Oh yeah, the film. It's called Looking for Eric.
Yeah, basically, the question usually the question that you can hear often about this film is how Loachian is this film? How represents the work bag of Ken Loach in the last 10 years?
A sports film. Why Ken Loach? Why? Surely you want to rip families apart. Can you do that with sport? Indeed he did. He's had a writing partner for the past maybe 5 years. Apparently your man is a huge football fan, so slowly and surely it's been introduced into his films until finally he does a film totally dedicated to football that doesn't have any football in it.
Although I don't know exactly, because I don't know how, apart the first few scenes where we basically see an homage of Eric Cantona career with many of his goals, but I have to be honest, nothing special. I know that now I will break your heart as Man U supporter. Yes, he is a Man United supporter, so if you have any problem with that, just overwhelm him with the massive numbers of emails. But anyway, just to be back to the main point.
I don't have to attack you. There's several million people that will do it for me.
Absolutely, because I have one of the massive supporters around the globe.
Indeed, the largest supported club around the globe, except
which
for
one? Man U?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, it is. It's official.
It is?
Yeah, because we got China.
You recently acquired China.
We got it.
No, this is not risk. It's not a game, you know.
Got India too, if that helps.
Fantastic.
Number 1 team in a country that doesn't even like football. Have you ever heard of the Indian football team?
Every day I follow Indian football team. I don't know why we're talking shit about the Indian football team now. Anyway, Ken Loach with this movie. Yes, it is an homage to football star as Eric Cantona. He actually is quite funny, although he plays on his role of being so wise and also with a good advice.
It's about a postman who seems down on his luck, as a lot of postmen do, and they go post and shoot things up. But this guy, he's depressed.
He has no wife. He lost his wife.
He lost 2 wives.
His children are
that are not his.
Quite wild. Yeah.
Yes, they're children from one of his wife's other marriage, but he's a good man and he takes care of both these children, one black, one white.
Yeah, I would say with a lot of love as well, although his manners sometimes were a bit tough, but it's just a working class English style.
Really, I thought he was really tame. That's what it brought. You saw this man and you look at him and go, that meek creature, how can he ever be strong? But then you find out, through the magic of Eric Cantona and flashbacks.
Magic, just because he also has his entrance in the film is magical every time. Just he appears and disappears.
He's a drug hallucination.
Exactly.
In his youth, this man had amazing confidence. You believed that the wife left him, but he left the wife because he couldn't deal with it. He had a life to live. He was young. So now he's depressed. He had blue suede shoes. He needs to get his confidence back, and all his friends are trying to tell him a joke, make him laugh. He's also called Eric.
Yeah, exactly.
Handy this.
The double comes into game. You know?
Eric Cantona, he doesn't really play himself in this film. He plays another man's dream of what Eric Cantona would be like.
Exactly.
So it's press conference Eric Cantona than a man who talks bullshit French philosophy about seagulls following trawlers.
That is the real Cantona that we admired, in life. He's really wise.
Yes, but he had to do his homework to make that speech, so he prepared it. In this postman's mind, Eric is this wise, all-knowing, but confident man strutting around the pitch with his collar up like he did. Eric in the film, Eric Cantona, they shouldn't have done that. It's really confusing. They did it just to throw us. They're onto us. Yeah, we've been around long enough for us to interfere in Ken Loach's writing of that film.
I would split the film in two sections, because in the first section of the film we do meet a lot of Ken Loach characters, and when I say Ken Loach characters, working
brothers,
working style, family fights, a lot of alcohol going on, fragile relationships.
How the big bad world is approaching what they love, like their football teams, people coming in buying it. Oh, corporations are bad, the little working man, fantastic. Ken Loach stuff,
And then all of a sudden there is a strange thing, because the film turns in the second section more comedy, just with the most dramatic action. I mean, when you see that man so desperate in a way that basically has to deal with his children getting some trouble sooner or later, just there the film, although seems turning into tragedy, turns in where basically the comedy starts.
This film is a great one to watch during the day, not at night time. There's a reason why. It has to be bright outside. I went into the outside world. I just felt optimistic that, man, through self-improvement, we can ignore the junkies on the street. We could ignore the thugs. We can rise above it. It was the first time walking out the cinema. I didn't put my headphones in to block out the sounds of Dublin City and the accents that I could potentially pick up, which is my biggest fear.
Really?
There's a lot of accents in Ireland you don't want. Cork is one of them, but that's why we all got elocution lessons while we were young. Anyway, first impressions. Walk around the city. It felt fantastic. I felt the luck is on my side. Walking down the street, I got a message to meet Nick. I go, I can meet Nick. It won't be on a cliff this time. I feel safe. It'll be in a park. I go into Merrion Square Park. I stumble across the World Street Performer Championships. I go, wow, this is amazing. This is the best people at creating art on the street in the world, and they're all here for me to see. Then I walk further and I see a statue of Oscar Wilde, and I'm going, wow, look. The statue, he's reclining. All statues should be as casual as that, leaning back. That's how things should be. I better go meet Nick now. I meet Nick. First words out of his mouth was,
looking for Eric wasn't a masterpiece.
You broke my heart. I've never sunk so quickly from optimism to, oh God, he's actually right. So fast. I nearly got hit by a car when I was crossing the road. Things felt so glum because I was reaching for my headphones to put them back in my ears to block out the noise of Dublin City, so much so that I didn't hear the car coming.
Yeah, but
and it was nearly the end of me.
I mean, that's true in a way. I mean, it's a really funny and cute film, but I don't think it is Ken Loach at its best.
It's not Ken Loach at his best. It's not really even a feel-good movie. you're just looking at tugs all day long.
Revenge.
And also, it brings up the aspect of English football hooliganism, but being put to a good use this time. So, there, we didn't ruin anything.
Absolutely.
Apart from mob violence doing good things. Do we recommend go see this?
Definitely I would say that it's a good 2 hours enjoying a wise French man spreading good advice.
The time I went to go see it, there was a lot of kind of fat men in their 30s. And I was going, fat men in their 30s, what are they doing here? They're by themselves. They're Man United fans. So if ever there was a kind of an in-joke about Man United, chuckling away.
I went to see the film instead at night time.
Yeah.
And as soon as Rick Cantona's name went on the screen, some crazy man on my left just started to scream. Wah!
Good or bad? Is that good or bad? Was there an O at the end of it? Was he Italian?
No, was he? I think that he was French, just trying to say, to everybody, look
at me, we're so proud of him.
Exactly.
He kung fu kicks people in the face. Our next film in this special French Connection podcast is a slightly new take on the recent direction French films are taking. Nick, you call it a
fake art house, truth, in fairness, but solid one, the one that you enjoy, the one that you will never get bored at. I mean, you will go out from the cinema saying, it's enjoyable.
There's a new type of French film that came about lately, and it is exactly what I thought would happen. When you give people that claim to be art housey as a culture money, what will they do? What will they produce? They'll make action films just like America. They don't give a damn. They just want to sell their film around the world because they know that action films make the biggest buck everywhere. We've got Transporter 1, 2 and 3, Crank 1 and Crank 2, High Voltage. And then we've got Taxi and a film which is extremely similar to this, but it doesn't take itself as seriously. We have Liam Neeson's Taken.
Taken.
They were all enjoyable films. This one, we haven't even mentioned its name yet. And that's its main problem. It's so bloody average, and it does everything averagely. It's not arty, it's not action, it's just about an average guy. Even that's the last line in the film.
Yeah.
How did he get past us? He's just an average guy.
Basically, happy family, 3 years together, wife, husband. Typical
it's a given.
Happy family frame. Everything will be destroyed in one day, one afternoon. The wife, because she was by mistake caught killing somebody in the police eyes. And this man will try to do everything to save her. In fact, the tagline on all the billboards in London was, "How far would you go for the one you love?"
Kick a junkie in the head. That's how you resolve all issues in French films lately. The ragamuffin junkies' heads are always the stepping stone for plot development in recent French films. In Taken, the daughter gets kidnapped, and the bad guys give her this magic potion called heroin, which, unless you find a cure within 48 hours, you're irreversibly transformed into a prostitute, like Cinderella, but in reverse. In Anything for Her, the junkie is the real culprit of the murder, which the hot mom is accused of. Junkies are the bane of every hot French mother's life these days.
I wouldn't say that they have this important role. I mean,
no, Nick, they have a great important role in modern folklore. We always think about what they do when no one's looking. Are they even there? Maybe it's just a form of street art. When people ask me what Dublin's like, I tell them it's wall-to-wall junkies having a good old shuffle. I even have some in my garden. They mow the grass with their teeth, because I tell them I water the grass with heroin. They were going, wow, deadly. And I go, it is. It helps in the pushing up of the daisies, you know. They didn't get the irony, so they just kept on mowing. And that is the problem with the character of the drug addict in French action films. They have no character. Never the victim of the system. They are always obvious ways to fill in a crime-related plot hole.
Definitely.
The film itself does have one great thing which I love. It's how the husband flips tactics so quickly without even a second's contemplation. The wife's case comes up for a hearing, and he meets the judge outside, and she tells him, "Sorry, not this time." He goes, "No! Fine. What'll I do? I'll bust her out of prison with the most complex plan ever conceived, for I am a school teacher." You'd think he would just go and hire a better lawyer, but he really gives up on the whole legal path a bit too easy, in my opinion. It's just straight to jailbreaking in seconds.
I will try to get her out of prison.
No, it's not
because we don't know yet if doubt.
You know how it's going to play out. They're trying to make money out of this film.
I don't
They're
know.
not going to give an unhappy ending, are they?
Are you talking about sequels?
Unless you are in favour of the judiciary system and no one should escape.
I said no because you will. In fact, this is, I think, is a good element in the film. From the beginning of the film, you will get on their sides, although they are planning something illegal. So, and you will stay with them all the way through, I would say.
There's a reason we haven't mentioned the director's name till now.
Director and writer.
Fred Cavalier.
Yeah.
There's no sense of him as a director or a writer in the film. It might as well be one of those big action films that you don't even know who the director or the writer is, you just go by star. But in this, it's not a star-driven thing.
Although in a way they try to set up this stardom within the film itself with the wonderful, good-looking model, no?
They said, it'll be more dramatic if she's beautiful. What an interesting way to think. They should have said there'll be more money if she's more beautiful.
More honest, definitely. And then she struggled for a more important place in the film.
Yeah, she said my character is not developed enough. And they said, fine, right. They went away for 2 months. Minimum 2 months they spent writing her character story, making it more in-depth. And you know what they came out with?
With what?
We'll just make her diabetic. She will need insulin.
So, blood.
That's out of Con Air and many other films. You'll know that the key turning point in the film will revolve around needing insulin at some point. Also, they said to make it more realistic, because this is an average man, this is a teacher. How would he know about crime? To make it more believable to the audience, we won't do any research either.
He will do it.
That's a fact. And it shows.
But he did research. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I suppose he did research, and that's pretty much what the whole film is about. There's a lot of quiet scenes where he's got a pencil in his mouth and he's muttering, and a cigarette in the other hand. He's just looking and writing on a wall and putting posters up. Again, his teaching skills are coming into this because he's making a collage on the wall.
Exactly, yeah.
Believable because of his character being a teacher.
Do you think, yeah?
Yeah, I think their lack of research really paid off. Alright, Nick, we leave this one alone for now. Just sum up, what's your final thoughts on this grey wonder?
If you want to go to see in cinema, it's fine because you won't be disappointed while you are eating.
Will we put our necks on the line and say we will not see this director again? But we will see this type of film again.
Definitely.
Finally, we have things we like. Now you must like too.
And this week we have Delicatessen, a really cute film, I would say.
Now this is how I want my French films to be.
Yeah.
I want my films to look
Warm.
painted. I want them to be warm. I want interesting characters. I want characters over story. That's what I want.
We're talking about one really classical French good film. Delicatessen really made the history of the French recent cinema.
People may know the director, Jean-Pierre, from his 2001 outing, Amélie. Like Amélie, it's kind of quirkily shot.
Yeah.
Well coloured, but a very good example of it. And when I was watching it, I was going, oh my god, they've pretty much stolen the sets. Are you a fan of Babe?
No.
The pig?
No.
Have you seen the film?
Yeah.
Have you seen the second film?
No.
Babe 2, Pig in the City. It's much darker relative.
We have a pig here, a gold pig just here.
We have a gold pig. He's actually my lucky charm, who I got in a church of all places. They sell gold pigs in certain churches in Ireland.
Why?
I've no idea. It was one church. I think they were trying to make money out of lead they melted down out of the windows.
Fantastic.
Babe 2, Pig in the City. Looks exactly like this film. The same dark, the same dripping wet. It's like the building was alive. You've got the tenants, which are quirky, weird, always locked in their rooms, peering out. You've got the landlord, who you're meant to be suspicious of. I suppose this is much like life. But also, it looked like Terry Gillingham's Brazil. Another kind of dystopian dark comedy, bizarre looking, stomach wrenching at times.
I have to be honest, I'm not a great fan of black
Humor.
comedy. But in this case, the black comedy fades into surrealism. That's make this film so unique.
It's kind of Tim Burton in a way.
More evil, less, the end Tim Burton is always a feel good in a way, although it's creepy, dark. So in this case...
I never thought about that in the end of Sweeney Todd when all the main characters were dead.
Actually, I haven't seen Sweeney Todd.
Forget what I just said.
Okay, great.
How would you describe this film? Would you say it's a comedy, a horror,
I would just say in one word...
romance of freaks?
To describe in one word, it's just neo-surrealism.
Surrealism.
With an hint of fetish comedy. And when I say fetish, I'm thinking about specifically at the scene where the top floor couple making love kind of master all the 2-3 floors below them, because everybody try to get in right with their shag. I think it's an amazing scene.
That scene where you're talking about couple upstairs are having sex and the rhythm and the sound of the bed squeaking becomes a musical throughout the house.
Absolutely.
And everybody else is matching work rate of what they're doing. There's one who's like hammering something. There's another guy's playing music on
violin.
Well, it was a saw.
Okay.
A violin for the poor folk.
Yeah, there was a woman mopping her mat.
Actually, it was all pretty much innuendos.
Exactly.
Anyway, this musical scene reaches its climax when the man in the couple upstairs has his climax. In America, conservative of conservative, that was the trailer.
Really?
They had no montage of elements of the film. They just had that scene. That was it, and then it just came up with the titles of the film. Bloody brilliant idea for a trailer, but also ruins your film, really.
I would say the solid, strongest part of the film was just the editing of the film. It was just poetic, the way that it was perfect. Everything was falling into place at the right pace.
As it should do. Did I take much notice of the editing?
I think it was one of the best editing I've ever seen recently.
The intro was something special as well. It made me think for a while it was a horror, because the very first image is a man sharpening his big meat cleaver.
Really interesting.
Sets up the rest of the film, alright. But for me, that's terrifying. When I was young, I chopped off my thumb doing that. So for me, it was the scariest thing I've ever seen. But the intro, back to the intro, that was beautifully well put together and edited. The credits took place panning through the office of the butcher, and when it came for the director of photography, his name appeared where the branding of a camera would be. For music, it appeared on a record, and for clothing, it appeared on the label of a shirt. It's really nicely well done.
Absolutely.
So the best bit of the film was the intro.
The editing of the intro.
What an intro.
What an intro.
The film should have just ended there. It would have been like a Pixar short.
In fact,
amazing.
Because I think that the second part of the film it's a bit weaker than the first, because this kind of love story, these two freakish characters, because they are not the proper freaks, but
he's a circus clown. He's a circus freak. He is a freak. He fits the freak criteria. Worked in the circus, owned a monkey. Also, they eat people in the film. Forgot to mention that. The butcher kills people and feeds it to the public. What would the people say if they knew? The people are in on it.
Absolutely.
They're all in on it. As the story goes on, so many of the characters become so unlikable that you're going, screw them. While we can say that the writing and the story wasn't up to much, you won't remember.
But I don't think it's normal in a film like that you don't really remember.
I know, you'd remember the story or you'd care about the characters. What you get out of it is, wow, that's actually close to art, this film. But the weirdest thing is how much it makes you think of other great films too that have emulated this style. While we do recommend you go see this film, but also, once you're finished this film, it'll encourage you to go see Terry Gilliam's Brazil, The Little Shop of Horror, Sweeney Todd, and Babe 2, Pig in the City. That's it for this episode of Beyond the Exposition, The French Connection. What we've learned from today is that the French should stick to what they do best. They should make colourful art house films, and their footballers should be arrogant part-time actors and philosophers. They should not try and attempt to make Hollywood films, But if they really must, they should make them into action films, big and stupid with explosions and parkour being the only form of transport. They should only hire non-French actors like Liam Neeson and Jason Statham, because they don't stop the question, is a chair really a chair, is it just merely a set of ideas? They would pick up the chair and break it over a comic book junkie's head.
I do think that you are too harsh on French. Maybe because of your neighbour, I don't know.
They undermined my authority of their language.
But learn French.
I just don't want to, because I want to be liked by other countries. Remember, questions, comments, queries and complaints can be sent to us by email at questions.bte@gmail.com or on Twitter, or by simply leaving a comment on the podcast page. Even though we had reassurances on the last episode that Nick is here on this show for the long term.
Hey, I am here.
You were here right now, but you absconded and I had to drag you back, and then you brought me to the edge of a cliff and had me feared for my life. So much so that I talked really fast and I messed up my cappuccino order. Coffee is really important to me, so that was a deep blow, Nick. And because of that, Nick is taking a little enforced summer break. But while he is away, we'll be running a little competition for our listeners. We would like to know, what should I call the next episode? A, Beyond the Italian, or B, Without the Italian?
That's good.
You're happy with that?
Definitely really happy.
Because you don't have to do work. Hey, you're Italian.
From Nicko and
Donnacha. One of us will see you next time. Ciao. This has been a Major Headache production.
Sydney.